Welcome to the Dhosjan Show. I'm your host, Dhosjan Greenaway-Delini, a startup advisor and fractional CFO at Bia Innovate. And today we're talking about, so what's the point of AI? And if you're still using AI just to summarize emails or search faster, then you're really leaving, I'd say, 90% of the value on the table. And it's 2026, and dare I say, is the tech moat, is it dead? Or at least the barriers are greatly reduced. And I've been reflecting on the application of AI over the past few months through actually building and testing AI to solve real business problems. And this has been against this backdrop of tech advancements in AI that's moving at mind-blowing speed, coupled with a tumultuous macroeconomic environment. So in this episode, we not only highlight the cool use cases that we're using AI internally at Bia Innovate for, but I want to call out the massive gap in its application and what we're doing to close that gap, and calling out an area that will bring, what I feel will bring about the most ROI. We'll of course be discussing vibe coding, but also why AI is finally becoming the great equalizer for founders who've historically been locked out of the room. So starting with the art of the possible. In our last podcast episode, Forging a Career in Tech, I made a comment. I said that I'm not a coder, but I love to solve business problems with tech. And I paused and reflected on that. After publishing that episode, I thought hard about that. And fast forward a couple of months, I really do not think I can truthfully say that I'm not a coder. But let's dive into it. So vibe coding and no-code tools mean that you don't need to be a software engineer, or at least have a software engineering degree to build a MVP, minimum viable product, if you launching a tech-related business. So I feel the tech moat is no longer the biggest issue, the biggest barrier to founders. And the cost of the tech moat has significantly reduced due to these vibe coding tools and advancement of AI. And many of these apps, they allow you to create a version of an app, of a website in minutes with few prompts. Of course, the quality of the output will always depend on the tool that you're using, the prompts that are used, and the user itself, and the user's ability to articulate what they want to build. But I do agree that you can get started for a lot less investment if you're building with tech, and get to a version of something quite a lot faster. And my approach to vibe coding, has been to use it as more of a way to visualize the thoughts I have in my head, the vision I have in my head, supporting me with the brainstorming of what a user experience could be. And I've actually been building apps and platforms, and some of them started using a vibe coding tool, but then relatively quickly I moved out of that vibe coding tool and into a build environment that's, I would say, more of the traditional sense of software engineering. And that works for my style of development and my inclination for learning and testing, and inevitably for my eagerness to upskill myself on how the infrastructure of an app works. And for some things that I've built, the shifting from my shift from the vibe coding tool was very quick, and I got to rebuilding from scratch in many ways. And that was for me quite important in terms of my own process, and it worked well for me. And then when I called in other tech and security experts, that review phase, it worked well for that, to my internal workflows. But it really does depend on you, the user, and your app and the use case. But that's just how my brain worked. And I've seen some apps being built and deployed in less than a day in some cases, and because they just chose a different workflow. But regardless of how you approach it, I think the advantage with vibe coding is that it allows you to visualize the user experience and test ideas and get feedback for a fraction of the cost. And that's a win, faster feedback from the market. And so now I can no longer say I'm not a coder, because that really isn't true 100% anymore. So thinking of AI in action, use cases. And for me, I'm not looking for robots. I'm looking for support. And after spending quite a lot of time in the past year down in the weeds of AI, as I mentioned, I've long moved past just using it for search. I use it for almost every function in my business, from support and marketing finance operations, tech brainstorming, strategy sparring. But I do want to emphasize the word support here because for me that's key, as at the moment, I don't feel that AI can fully replace humans in the workplace. And I think that's key because it's a critical distinction. And there's more on that in future episodes. But just to give you a quick flavor of what I've been using AI for. And some of these, and quite a lot of them actually, I've done completely on my own. And in some areas, a couple of areas, I've used externally vetted tools. So for one, I've used AI to build a number of software applications, from internal CRMs to financial model generators to automating month-end workflows. I have AI employees that are exec assistants, marketing director, tech advisor. I've used AI for video generation. I remember when Google released one of its latest upgrade to their AI video generation tech in Q4 2025. I mean, the first time I tried this, I had to leave the room. It was just ridiculous. It was ridiculously impressive, but equally scary on how fast technology has come along. I've also used AI to generate and modify complex finance forecast scenarios in minutes to support that quick decision making with real-time insights and being proactively guided to places to look in terms of where your business is losing money and running through those scenario options for fixing those issues or creating new opportunities, and doing this at record speed so I can pull in my 20 years of senior finance and commercial experience. It's just a match made in heaven, and the pace is really impressive. And of course, there's AI use cases in accounting, bank reconciliation, spend management, fraud, and anomaly detection. And I could go on, but I'll pause there. But please do feel free to message me if you want to brainstorm, the art of the possible. But I do have quite a crucial rule in terms of how I interact with AI. I interact like it's a junior member of staff. I set guardrails, I review the work, and I stay as the human in the loop. And that's really key. So now we have the tech. We really should be focusing on the problems. So my response to when clients ask about what can they do with AI, can you suggest some use cases? I always go back with, well, what's the problem you're trying to solve? Because as a prudent and experienced commercial and finance exec, I've learned the hard way that you can waste resources on flashy tools and tech. And seeing what I've seen, even just looking at the past 6 months, where I've tested firsthand, and I can see that it's no longer a matter of it's possible. If it's not done technically, it will be done soon. But really, it's 100% about what are the biggest roadblocks, the biggest barriers, the cash leaking areas in your business. What's the things you need to fix? And let's use tech and AI, if applicable. If that's the best way, let's do that in terms of finding that path forward. And I feel that's where we should be focusing our AI possibility lens. And through proper assessment, you may find that you don't need AI for a particular use case. You may just need to fix that internal process and controls in your business. The missing piece, AI as a great equalizer. So what's the point of AI? For me, it's to enable us to solve problems faster, bring us up to be more human and live more equitable lives and more fulfilling lives. And yes, AI is solving a lot of things. It's enabling breakthroughs in the medical field. It's advancing healthcare pathways, automating, saving millions of pounds in fields like transport and automotive. And yes, this is great for shareholders and execs of these companies. And in many cases, it does add something of value for millions. And I don't have enough time in this episode to discuss the darker side of AI. That's the risks from hallucination, the ethics of data, job losses, loss of livelihood, environmental impacts, the enabling of criminal activity, and abuse of humans. And if you're keen to be a guest on the episode discussing these topics, please do reach out. In my previous episodes, I talked about the opportunity to use AI as a great equalizer to make sure the opportunity reaches us all, not just a privileged few. And I'm referring specifically to disadvantaged groups, underrepresented founders. I'm referring to the former employee laid off who can't find a new role after 12 months of job hunting. The working mother who has no time to travel to a big city hub to join events, geared to helping budding business owners, the youth living in poverty whose circle is not familiar with common AI tools and business nows and business experience and commercial experience, or have a clue what tech can do to create opportunities, or the experienced professional with an incredible business idea but missing some key funds, skills, and network to execute on that vision. And my view is that if you solve the problem for these people who are in millions and millions in the UK and globally, this is the type of return on investment I want to see with AI, in the millions of lives transformed for the better. And this belief is why I've launched the Upskill with Bia Innovate platform as an extension of my mission as a fractional CFO, experienced finance leader, and startup advisor. And I do believe that AI is a great equalizer, but only when opportunities are shared. And access to expert business frameworks shouldn't be a privilege. It must be accessible to everyone that's on their entrepreneurial journey. And that's what we're doing at Bia Innovate. So my key takeaways for today: 1, tech moat, as it's been known, is officially dead, I feel. But also, so is your excuse, to stop you starting to build something that adds value. And the win isn't just the tech, it's the speed to market feedback, which prevents you from wasting thousands and thousands on ideas that just don't stick. 2, stop simply using AI for search. Embed it into your workflow to support execution. Use it to build and create value. And thirdly, the point of AI is not just it's a flashy tool, it's solving that roadblock, it's removing that barrier. And whether it's a cash leak, a broken process, resource gap, use AI to bridge that distance. So you move from what's possible to what is profitable. Thank you for joining today's episode. If you found it helpful, please share it with a fellow entrepreneur or team member, colleague, friend, or family member. Don't forget to follow the Dhosjan Show for more insights, strategies, and stories to help you launch, grow, and scale your business. If you'd like to learn more about how we can support you, just get in touch by going to our website, biainnovate.com. That's biainnovate.com. I'd love to hear more about any AI or other business challenges that you're facing. And you can also reach out to me directly on the Bia Innovate website. And all the links are provided in the show notes. So until next time, keep pushing boundaries and keep embracing innovation.